storm rolled in just after midnight, dragging thunder across the sky like something enormous, shifting in its sleep. Detective Nathan Cole watched the rain streak down his office window, each drop catching the streetlights below and stretching into pale, distorted lines. He had been staring at the same file for nearly an hour, unable to shake the feeling that something about it was wrong in a way he couldn't explain. The victim's name was Daniel Hargrove, 42 years old, financial consultant. Found dead in his home with no injuries, no signs of forced entry, and no indication that anyone else had been present. It should have been a straightforward case of natural causes. Except for the clock. Nathan flipped through the crime scene photos again, stopping at the image of the living room wall. The clock had stopped at exactly 2:17 a.m. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. Coincidence, he muttered, though the word felt weak even as he said it. A soft knock broke the silence. "Come in," he called. Detective Laura Bennett stepped inside, carrying another file. Her expression told him everything before she even spoke. "Don't tell me," Nathan said. "Another one." Laura nodded and placed the file on his desk. "Name's Caroline Pierce. Found tonight. Same situation." Nathan didn't reach for the file immediately. "Let me guess," he said. "No injuries, no entry, no witnesses." Laura folded her arms, and the clock stopped at 2:17. Nathan closed his eyes briefly, then let out a quiet breath. That makes two. Still not enough for a pattern. "It is if you read this," Laura said, tapping the file. Nathan opened it, scanning the details. Caroline Pierce had been a journalist working on a series about unexplained deaths in the city. His eyes slowed as he reached the last page. A printed article draft. The headline read, "The 2:17 Phenomenon. Coincidence or something worse?" Nathan looked up. She was investigating a case like this? Laura nodded. "Daniel Hargrove. She interviewed people connected to him just 2 days ago." Nathan leaned back again, the unease in his chest sharpening into something more focused. "All right," he said. "Now it's a pattern." They searched Caroline's apartment the next morning, combing through her notes and recordings. Nathan found a voice recorder tucked beneath a stack of papers and pressed play. Caroline's voice filled the room, slightly distorted but clear enough. "If you're listening to this, I've probably gone too far. The connection isn't just the time of death. It's the investigation itself. Every victim was looking into the previous one." Nathan exchanged a glance with Laura. The recording continued. "I thought it was paranoia at first, but the pattern goes back years, maybe decades. Each person dismisses it until it's too late. Something changes once you understand it. I don't know how else to explain it." The audio crackled briefly, then resumed. "I started noticing things last night. The hallway in my apartment seemed longer than usual. Not by much, but enough that I couldn't ignore it, and I keep hearing something moving when I'm alone." Nathan paused the recording. "Stress," Laura said, though she didn't sound convinced. "Maybe," Nathan replied, but his tone suggested he was already considering something else. That night, Nathan stayed late at the station, reviewing older case files. He traced the pattern backward, linking each victim to the previous one. A reporter investigating a doctor studying a patient obsessed with a writer. The chain stretched further than he expected. At 1:48 a.m., Nathan finally stood, rubbing his eyes. "Enough," he muttered. "I'm going home." The city was quiet as he drove, the storm still lingering in the distance. By the time he reached his apartment, the rain had softened into a steady rhythmic drizzle. Inside, everything was as he had left it. Normal. Nathan locked the door behind him and set his keys on the table. The clock on the wall read 2:03. He hesitated. A faint unease crept into his thoughts, but he forced it aside. "You're letting it get to you," he said under his breath. At 2:07, the lights flickered. Nathan froze, staring at the ceiling as the bulb dimmed and then steadied. "Just the storm," he said, though the explanation felt thin. At 2:10, he noticed the hallway. It led from the living room to his bedroom, a short distance he had walked countless times without thinking. Now it looked longer. Not dramatically so, but enough that it felt wrong. Nathan stepped closer, narrowing his eyes. The perspective didn't make sense. The proportions were off, as though the space had been stretched slightly beyond what it should be. He stopped halfway down the hall. "All right," he said quietly. "That's enough." He turned to go back and saw himself, standing in the living room, watching. Nathan's breath caught as he stared at the figure. It was an exact copy, down to the smallest detail, but something about it felt empty, like a reflection that didn't belong to any mirror. The other Nathan tilted his head slightly as though studying him. "This isn't real," Nathan said, his voice tight. The figure didn't respond. At 2:16, the air seemed to thicken, pressing against his skin. Nathan took a step backward. The figure took a step forward. Not in sync, not mirroring, but moving independently. That was when Nathan understood. It wasn't copying him. It was replacing him. At 2:17, the clock stopped. The lights went out. The next morning, Detective Laura Bennett stood in Nathan Cole's apartment, her expression hard and controlled. "Time of death?" she asked. 2:17 a.m., the officer replied. Laura nodded slowly, her gaze drifting toward the hallway. "Any signs of forced entry?" "None." She stepped forward, her attention drawn to the living room window. For a moment, she thought she saw movement in the reflection. A figure standing behind her. She turned quickly. Nothing. Laura exhaled, steadying herself. On the table, she noticed a piece of paper. It hadn't been there in the initial photos. She picked it up. The handwriting was Nathan's. The message was short, but it was enough to send a chill through her entire body. "It doesn't kill you. It becomes you when you see it clearly." Laura stared at the words, her mind racing. Then, slowly, she looked toward the hallway. For a brief moment, she thought she saw something shift in the shadows. And instead of stepping back, she took a step forward. Because now she needed to understand. And without realizing it, she had already taken the next place in the chain.